2nd of August 2023. In this news flash I'm going to talk about ESKOM finding its mojo. What the hell is that? I thought ESKOM runs on technical skills and solid plants. I never knew there was a mojo needed for ESKOM. That came to me as a surprise. I'm just going to read you the headline and a little bit of the paragraph in the article. It's quite a lengthy article, but I am really puzzled. That's the best I can do. ESKOM leadership finally finds its mojo. Finally! Can you believe it? 30 years down the line and they find the mojo. The leadership we have in energy and ESKOM right now is quite alright. There is now a newly found vision in focus, sense of purpose to revitalize and prioritize ESKOM's power stations. Of course, this is primarily due to the pressure exerted on ESKOM and the government to fix the load shedding crisis. ESKOM was in a state of near collapse. For now, the situation is improving steadily, but it isn't yet time to celebrate. ESKOM has not yet ended load shedding. We will only celebrate that milestone once at least a 10% reserve margin capacity goal has been achieved. For now, we have to hold the government to account for its role in mismanaging ESKOM. And what the fuck do you know? As I'm talking about it, bam, goes the fucking power. And that is our lives. With all their mojo and all those things, load shedding is a reality. They can spin it every which way they like. When the power goes, the lights goes off. And no amount of bullshit can make your aircon run, or your lights burn, or your computer run, or whatever. You actually need, that mysterious thing, electricity, to run it. Now, the thing that I am puzzled about is, why was the operating, functioning ESKOM first basically destroyed before they find their mojo and realize, oh shit, this wasn't a good plan. We need to get back to that other plan, that other space. We cannot call it what it was, that apartheid space. But that's a swear word. We must not go to that. Let's just keep to this mojo shit and see if we cannot get the thing back operational. It's going to be a little bit tough. Lots of skills are gone. Lots of neglect has deteriorated the plants. And oh, don't forget, ESKOM was turned into a sponge to suck in unemployed people. So ESKOM has got today about 3 times the personnel that it had against the time when it was running profitable, delivering power stations, new projects on time, within budget, and keeping the cost of electricity to the public down. But don't talk about that. That was from that evil time, that evil time when merit was applied. No. Merit, we don't go to that merit place. We go to this place of things must just appear lekker. That old story of appearances. As long as the appearances is correct, the perceptions will flow out of that. And who the fuck is going to care whether the lights actually burn? But I want to talk to you about something that could make a difference. And I've mentioned it in other Skidmarks, and initially people laughed at me when I said, why don't we get that little torpedo engines from the Russians and connect a generator to it and supply a community with power? And what do you know? 2 days later, a knowledgeable guy came back to me and said, shit, you know, I laughed when I saw that, your mention of that nuclear engine. I had to look at it. It could actually work. So, I'm not just sitting here and sucking shit out of my thumbs. I look at facts. I actually look at facts. Let's look at this fact. XE100, the most advanced small modular reactor. The safest, most economic and most advanced design for a small modular nuclear reactor. I saw that and I was absolutely stunned when I started going through the article. I'm going to give you just some headlines. Our reactor, X-energy nuclear reactor, designs are based on HTGR technology, a generation 4 reactor technology with a proven operational pedigree. XE100, 220,000 graphite pebbles with triso particle fuel, high temperature tolerant graphite core structure, ASME compliant reactor vessel, core barrel and steam generator, designed for a 60-year operational life. Flexible application, electricity and or process heat, base load or load following, online refueling, 95% plant availability, high burn-up fuel cycle, 200 megawatt thermal output, 80 megawatt electric output, 750 degree helium temperature, 6 MPa helium pressure, 565 degrees steam temperature, 6.5 MPa steam pressure. Now, if you're a bit technical, you will understand that apart from the electricity that this thing generates, there's a hell of a spin-off in that temperatures. And very important, this thing needs very little water to run cool and safe. Don't forget that. Don't let the people talk to you shit about what happened at Chernobyl and what happened in Japan and all that, and what happened at Long Mile Island. No, that is 4 generations back. 4 generations back. A simple design and modularized components. Road deliverable modules allows us to reinvent the nuclear plant delivery model. Module size and weight allows transportability using existing road and rail infrastructure, leading to scalability, timeline and cost control, never before seen in nuclear energy. Now we've got a little bit of a problem here. I see the guy talks about roads and rails. That's something that South Africa, it's quite dodgy here. I mean, there's some roads that you can't even transport a car or a truck on it. The best you can do is walk along it. But, okay, let's keep that one side. Our design team brings decades of experience. Our design team brings experience from the HTGR pebble bed design programs in Germany and South Africa. What do you know? South Africa. Combined with veterans of the Advanced Gas Reactor program in the US and leading experts from the US Department of Energy and National Laboratories. Can you believe it? Experience from South Africa. I wonder what happened to that experience. Ah, now I remember. BEE happened to it. And affirmative action. Oh yeah, that's what happened there. But who cares? It's from that evil part in our history when things were fucking working. Our reactor is 400 meters safety perimeters versus 10 miles. With a simple design, meltdown-proof walk-away safety, and the most robust encapsulated fuel, our approach is the safest and most secure of the Generation 4 approaches. Very important to take note of. And then we get to this. We have developed one of the most advanced and feasible micro-mobile nuclear reactor solutions in the world, an important step forward for clean energy innovation and leadership. And this is Dr. Brad Reardon, Director of the Government R&D Division. And then we get to this guy. We've reinvented the most robust and safe nuclear fuel on Earth. Dr. Pete Papano, President, TRISO X. And we're proud our reactors are getting recognition for being the safest. Dr. Martin van Staden, Vice President, Reactor Development. What the hell? Martin van Staden in America. I wonder why he had to go to America. That will be a mystery. Maybe not a mystery. You just need to think about it. Why did this guy leave South Africa? Now I remember. But I'm not going to mention it. You know what I'm talking about. And then we get to the point that I want to make. I said earlier in other Skidmarks, the way out is decentralization of power generation. That's the way out. Because what that does, it automatically takes a lot of strain off the national grid. Because you install these modular reactors at the distribution point where ESKOM enters a specific area. That's where you place this thing. So it connects into the existing distribution network, plus it can connect to the national grid to add in surplus if there is surplus. And if something goes wrong, that power station, that little modular power station, can be helped out by the ESKOM grid in the time what it takes to fix the thing. But apparently they don't break easily or frequently. They've got a design life of 60 years. Never forget that. 60 years. So, I made this little table. And you must look at it and just follow it closely. There's a lot of things around some of the points that I make that you should or could take into consideration. But the important part is, look at the basics. Look at the basics. And stick to the basics. And these other things, we make it work. The SMR will cost $240 million. Now that's a hell of a lot of money. That is 4.3 billion rand, which is also a huge amount of money. But look at the reality of that investment. I've worked now on medium to upper class homes, and I'm not talking about the low income environment. That is a socio-economic issue and should be handled separately. I'm just talking now about the medium and upper class homes in South Africa. And those are the homes that can afford alternatives. If we take 10,000 homes, that is what you can power from this SMR. The capital investment per home is 400 432,000 rand. Now that may sound like a lot of money, but for those that has already installed solar and were imagining this magic point of off the grid, they will understand that 430,000 is actually a very realistic number if you want to generate your own electricity. Now if you add that into your bond, and it's a 20-year bond, it will mean that you're going to pay 1,800 rand per month over 20 years for your share in that SMR. But the homeowners must be realistic. Whoever is going to finance that SMR needs some return on his investment, on the capital investment. So the homeowner offers 2,450 rand per month as his contribution to the SMR. And in exchange for that 2,450, he's getting electricity. Don't forget that. He gets electricity. That will give, on that capital investment per home to the investor, a return of 588,000 rand per house. Now that is roughly 150,000 rand profit for him per house. Remember that? Per house. There's 10,000 houses. So the SMR return in rands generates 5.8 billion rand. That is a bloody good investment. He invested 4.3 billion, he's getting back 5.8 billion. So it makes sense. Now we have to discuss and say, and that's a discussion on its own, where is the source of the capital going to come from? That is something. There are financial corporations that will look at this and say, yeah, well, that's a damn good investment for us. If we put that in there, into a SMR, instead of investing it in an overseas trust or bond or what, we're actually helping South Africa and we're getting a good return on our money. It makes sense to us. So that SMR, and you must not forget, that SMR is available on the market today. What is the obstacles here? Now we get to the nightmare part of it. Regulators. Regulators prevents this 10,000 people from going independent on electricity. Regulators. Driven by politicians. You know that criminal syndicate that has built a more of a nice boardroom for themselves? We call it Parliament, but it's actually the syndicate's boardroom. Those people, they stops this type of thing. Because why? You see that return, that little return of 5.8 billion, which means a 1.5 billion profit to the investor. Ha! These greedy politicians, they want shares of that. They want, because they want expensive whiskey and big mansions and expensive cars and security guards and all of that. Now the investor sits back and says, what the fuck is this? So I put in 4.3 billion to supply 10,000 houses with power that they actually need to drive, to make it possible for those people to live in comfort while they run their businesses that creates a lot of jobs and so. Now, my profit that I make is reasonable because these guys are happy with it. They are comfortable because they are now paying 2,450 rand a month compared to a 3.5 to 5,000 rand a month ESKOM bill. They're happy and we're happy. And we can see it happening and make sense for everybody. And then comes the vultures. And they want. And they don't care whether they are driving billions of rands out of South Africa. They don't care whether they're driving away capital investment. They don't care whether they kill job creation opportunities. Just as long as they can have, they're happy. And then in steps the green monkeys. You know those guys that say they're going to kill all the cattle because the cattle farts is fucking up the climate. In any case, those same guys. And Ramaphosa is a big partner in that team that wants you go green. They want you to go green. Now let's look at the green option here. For those same 10,000 houses. The solar option for that house. And now there's guys that are going to say, I did it and it's not costing me so much. Wata. I spoke to a few people and I've got neighbors that invested in solar for their homes. 400,000 rand is not unrealistic. That means over a 10-year period, that 400,000 rand is 3,333 rand per month, excluding now interest and capital depreciation and all that. I'm just working on the 400,000. He saves on his ESKOM account over that 10 years. Again, averages 252,000 rand. So he has invested 400,000 to save 252,000. So the loss, the capital loss is 148,000 rand. And why do I say there's a loss? Because let the green monkeys tell you whatever they want. These solar components has got a lifespan, limited lifespan. The best ones gives you a 10-year warranty. Compare that to a 60-year design life of a SMR. 60 years. So if you buy your house in a community with a SMR, you pay your bond off over 20 years, you and your wife will have your pension there, and we worked into that program that you will pay 1,500 rand energy levy after you've paid off your bond. So you and your wife will retire and die in your house, and your energy will never be out of whack or off or load shedding or crap like that, and you will pay the initial amount that you agreed on your bond, which is 2,450, and then after 20 years when your bond is settled and you don't have a bond payment to make anymore, you then pay 1,500 rand for the luxury of having electricity. And that plant, that SMR, has got a lifespan of 60 years, so you can most probably die in peace without experiencing load shedding. But the solar thing, 10 years, you better start thinking of replacing components. On some of them it's earlier. So that capital loss of 148,000 rand is now going to jump, because to replace that solar panels is not cheap. To replace the battery is definitely very expensive. And where are you? Back at investing a lot of capital to save on your ESKOM account. Doesn't make sense. But the SMRs is the real answer. And I look at them in some groups on WhatsApp and so, where the guys are talking about electricity and things like that, and I find it absolutely almost amusing that there is now a group there that is so committed to investigating the pebble bed technology and getting that to work. And I say, okay, but why the fuck do you want to do that? Just pick up the phone and call XMR and place an order for the thing. And that's it. They've already done all the work. Why do you want to redesign the wheel? And why do you want to put an extra wheel onto a running truck? Why? But you see, that is how it works in an environment where Mojo is seen as a major development. So, all I'm saying is look at these things that I've explained to you about the modular nuclear reactors. Think about that. Think about primarily taking a lot of load off the national grid. If you put SMRs into the rural areas, where towns has got 300 and 400 houses, and there's a region, a district or an area with 20 towns like that, and you power those 20 towns, that ESKOM grid is taking very little load. And then they can come and that unplanned, under-investigated solar plant orgasms that you find the blotches there in the Kalahari, 1,000 kilometers away from the consumers, and now all of a sudden they realized, oh shit, we can't get that power from Kalgatlaagte into the national grid because the grid is running at 100% capacity, the local grid. Stupid things like that. But comes back to it. When you want to drive a technical environment, you need technically qualified people. Qualified people! Some guy just this morning when I was talking about qualifications, and he said to me, whose qualifications? Qualified in what? And then he asked me whether I know anything about his tribe's culture. And I said, oh, you must just understand, there's a difference between a qualification and getting information. The details about your tribe's culture is for me information. It's not a qualification. But that's the country that we live in, and we have to look at it. But there is options available. No need to design that stuff. It is available. Just go and pick up the phone and call the guy and place the order. That's as easy as it is. Please give me a like and a subscribe and share the thing. Thank you for your support.